Hello, everybody. Welcome to International Ball Live webcast. Uh, as some leagues around the world are approaching midpoint of the season in January during COVID-19 world pandemic, experienced Miles Schmidt-Scheuber will be giving us the latest update in German basketball today. Miles is a German and English-speaking broadcaster, has called over 600 plus games, interviewed 1,400 plus players worldwide. He was first in Germany to have a weekly radio show lasted from 2006 to 2013, which concluded 212 episodes of basketball conversations. He is the founder of GermanHoops.com and a recipient of Eurobasket Lifetime Achievement Award for his basketball work. He's currently authoring his autobiography called The Real Deal, and about his career in Europe and Germany. Miles, thanks for doing this and being with us. How are you?
Yeah, thank you, Tom. I'm fine. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Absolutely, man. I have, been following your work and just reading the extensive interviews that you do, and in particular, how you have used your platform to cover and tell those stories that are starting from the bottom. Those individual players that are coming from, they have their own unique journey, and you use your platform to share those stories. Man, I'm so enthused to be speaking with you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's. I mean, you were your journey started going back 18 years ago, correct? In Boston, from Boston. You're from Boston,
right? I'm a German American. I was born in Lynn, Mass, which is north of Boston. Grew up in the suburbs, and my parents are German, and they came over to the States because my father had a good job, and I grew up in Boston, followed all the great sports teams, played a lot of sports, and I knew from a very, very early age that sports would be my big love, and so I had all my relatives in Germany, so I always went over to Europe when I was a kid during the summers. So I had a good introduction to European culture at a young age, and I decided to come over 2001, and I got into basketball about 2004, 4, and it's funny because I actually started at AFN. AFN is American Force Networks, which was the famous radio TV station for all the soldiers stationed in Europe. And actually, they wanted me to do only things concerning the military, but I was living in Frankfurt, and they had a professional team, the Opel Skyliners, and I was like, come on, I want to report about basketball, and they didn't want me to. But somehow, with my passion and my will, I was able to convince them that I could report about this team because they were actually on a great run in the summer or the summer of 2004, and they would go on to win their first BBL title, and I was able to report about that at AFN. That was pretty much my start into European basketball. That's where it all started, Tom, for AFN, and I'm really thankful that I could begin there and that I could actually report about basketball and bring something to the public, because basketball back then wasn't as huge as it has become in Germany now.
Well, of course, the world sports is the I guess one of the dominant sports is football, or as we call it here, soccer in North America.
Yeah.
Then in a lot of different countries, there's just different stories about basketball. I mean, I myself, as a two-sport guy, played basketball and then also did football. So it's like, and then. But now the how the game has evolved and how it's been growing exponentially, somewhat currently slowed down by the COVID-19 pandemic, but nevertheless, it's in the right direction.
Yeah, we've all been affected by COVID. I mean, it started last March, and all of a sudden, my season ended. Well, my broadcasting season. I mean, I I report 24/7 about players. I mean, I don't stop. I just keep going. I interview someone almost each day. I write an article. You know, it's just my passion is there. I just love doing it. Believe me, I would not be doing this if I didn't love it. And I just want to bring, you know, like you said, those unique stories about guys that, you know, come from, you know, they played in the NAIA or they played JUCO and they're living their dream. They just want to play professional. They come over here, play maybe for 500 euros in the month. I mean, that's nothing. You can hardly live off that. But I love bringing those stories. And I have to tell you an interesting example. This was maybe around 2010, 11, 12. The agent shall remain nameless. You know, he made fun of me. He was like, why are you bringing a story about an Oberliga player on Eurobasket.com? Oberliga is like the sixth or seventh league in Germany. And I was just like, hey, man, every player has their story, has a unique story to tell. And pretty much after that, it's just gotten more and more. I love featuring these guys that, you know, come from the bottom and work their way up. There's so many great examples of guys that have done it in Germany. But then on the other hand, I have no problem, and I love interviewing EuroLeague players, ex-NBA players. Just in the last weeks, privilege of interviewing Derek Williams, who played like 10 years in the NBA, and other guys that have, you know, come over and played in the EuroLeague. I interview everybody, Tom. It doesn't matter if you're a EuroLeague player, an ex-NBA player, or if you're a Regionalliga player. Each player has their special story, and I want to bring that to the masses.
Well, my hat's off to you, my friend, and good for you because you know, as a you know, storyteller, that you know, we all know. I mean, good old Michael Jordan saying, "It's not where you come from; it's how you come," and we all play. I mean, it doesn't matter you're coming to play from NAIA or you're coming from Division Three, Division Two,
Yep.
you know, Division One. And someone needs to tell these stories, and some of them are very fascinating stories when you look at and your in-depth coverage. I mean, this is you really get into the nitty-gritty of a very long interview talking about the player. And I think at times these are the interviews, these are the conversations that are, it's not shown on the resume. And you know, as someone in the brokerage business, I read resumes day in, day out, but you can't tell tell about the man himself just by reading the resume. But nevertheless, you use your platform and showcase and talk about their journey. And when when you read that, and then to me as a fan, as a follower, as someone that reads your work, it's just you get a clearer idea why that profile is the way it is. So you don't judge the book by its cover.
Exactly.
Well put. So all of these experiences that you put together, you mentioned that you're going to be doing a book called The Real
Yeah.
Deal. Man, I'm fascinated to know. I mean, you got so much stories to tell, I'm sure.
Yeah, I do. It's actually been a long-lasting project that I'm doing with my colleague and friend Manuel Schust. He's also very involved in German basketball. I've known him probably now about 15 years, 14. We actually worked together years ago. He was on my on my um, on my radio show. He was a host with me. He commentated games with me back in the day, like 2008. I remember doing a game in Berlin with him. We drove all day to get there and drove back all night. That was an experience. And he actually wrote a great book. I'm going to plug that here one more time. I actually have it here.
Please.
About the Fraport Skyliners. This was actually released last year, and some teams have done this in Germany. Bayern Munich, Alba Berlin, Frankfurt, Bayreuth, and who's the other team? There's one more, Bamberg. Basically, it's a book where it's 111 reasons to love that team, and he brought it over very well. It's a great book, and he has experience in the publishing field, and he helped me with the book. He introduced me, helping me to what I should do, and he'll be helping me now with how we release it. We actually wanted to release it at the end of this year, but as we all know, COVID reared its ugly head into just about everyone's lives. So we put the book a little bit on. It's done. I mean, I have 100+ stories, and it's fascinating. It's basically stories about players. I mean, obviously when you've interviewed 1,400 players, there are a lot of guys, and just to name some guys, Isaac Bonga from the Washington Wizards. I covered him intensively for 3 years when he was in Frankfurt when he was a kid. Isaiah Hartenstein, I knew him since he was 8. I know his dad pretty good, Florian. He just signed with the Denver Nuggets. He's going to be backing up Nikola Jokic. Guys like John Lure, who played in Larry Brown, the legendary coach. Luka Doncic. The title of the chapter is 30 Seconds with Luka Doncic. The Marco Pezic, who is the manager of FC Bayern Munich. Quantez Robertson, the legend from the Fraport Skyliners. Tyler Honeycutt, the ex-NBA Taylor, who unfortunately left us in 2018. Apparently, he committed suicide, even though his mother strongly believes that the police shot him. He had barricaded himself in his house in LA. Some stories. Pascal Roller, the legendary Fraport Skyliner guard. Ken Johnson, who played in the NBA. And then two guys I want to mention. Two guys that I had my first dealings with back in 2004 from the Skyliners that played a major role in the Skyliners winning their first title. Tyrone Ellis, who now is the head coach of the Stockton Kings, the G League team of the Sacramento Kings. He's a good friend of mine. And Chris Williams, the late Chris Williams, was good enough to play in the NBA, but just for some reason he didn't make it. He was one of the best players in Germany back in 2004. And then just some of my other chapters I just want to quickly name that, when you listen to titles, you just think like, oh, you got to get this book. Buzzer Beaters, Chip on My Shoulder, Excuse Me, Are You a Player? Living Room Break, The Miles Basketball Minute, Player's Best Friend, No Days Off, Nicknames, Sidekicks, Basket, Magenta Sport, The Walking Encyclopedia, Mr. EuroLeague, and Player Quotes. Those, Tom, are just some of the chapters in my book. Maybe I mentioned like 30 now, but I have about 100 plus stories. And believe me, it chronicles pretty much my journey in European basketball. And I'm proud to say it's very entertaining.
Well, that's fascinating. For friends and family, that's a
little intro to my book, Tom.
Brilliant. So for friends and family, viewers that are just joining us, we're here with the Marv Albert, Bob Costas of Europe, of Germany, Miles Schmidt-Scheuber, who is, I have a great privilege of hosting today and talking about his journey as just basketball in general. So let's get into a little bit about your website here, www.germanhoops.com, correct?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your website here.
I just have to correct you, Tom. That actually was founded by. Yeah, that came out in 2008, and I just have to correct you. It was actually founded from my colleague and friend Manuel Schust, who I mentioned earlier about writing the book. We pretty much started this page in 2009, and basically it was something, for me, it's just where I can feature my stories, because the problem with Eurobasket.com is that it only holds about 25 to 30 articles, and then it gets erased on the website. There's no archive. There's no library there. So everything that I've done, all the work I've done, which is around 3,000 interviews, articles that I've posted. So that's all on German hoops. Obviously, I started Eurobasket in 2000, but we started this in 2009, and it's just basically where my work is, where you can find all the work. You can find an interview I did with or a story on Justin Cobbs, the great ex University of California at Berkeley player. You can find articles. Game reports from the Skyliners, or my EuroLeague interviews, or anything I've done, in search, or just go in archives on the right, and that lists basically from my latest article in thing I did in 2009. It's all there. And yeah, I'm very proud of being able to keep this site very consistent and always putting up new content. And one more big shout out to my friend Manuel Shoes for keeping the site online and yeah, kind of making it, you know, a unique site where you can pretty much find everything about German basketball in English. So it's one of a kind, and I'm really proud that it's been online since 2009.
Thank you, Miles, for that in-depth.
So thank you for showing the website and introducing.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
That's my latest there. Haywood Highsmith, who played 5 games for the Sure.
So we're having a little bit of a. Can you hear me, Miles? I think we've lost Miles here. Can you hear me? Okay, I don't have you here.
Yes, I got you, Tom.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, you're back. Good, good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. Good. Miles, hold one quick moment. I want to do a quick market watch with you. Give us a rundown what's happened this week in German basketball. Talk about
everything's good on my phone. The mic's on. All right, I'm back. Good.
Yeah, so yes, give us a rundown. There are so many basketball leagues in Germany. I want to talk about.
Go ahead.
Give us a quick rundown of what's been happening. So we're gonna get into the market watch segment on our page, and we'll be back with Miles Schmidt-Scheuber just in a moment.
Now I can't hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me, Miles? Miles, can you, if you can hear me, can you tell me a little bit about the levels of the league and number of leagues that are in Germany, starting from Regionalliga, which is considered, I think, what, third or the fourth division basketball?
Yes. Go ahead. Yeah, it's actually go from the Oberliga, then the second Regionalliga. The Regionalliga is the fourth league, and that's a pretty big league. They've got really 50 plus teams in Germany. They've got all their divisions according to, you know, the north, south, west, east, and you can pretty much find the cool thing about that league is you can pretty much. I mean, it doesn't matter where you live in Germany. You're not far away from a team like that. So if you really are in need of watching basketball, you can go to a Regionalliga team. Then you have the Pro B. That's the third league. A lot of the easy credit BBL teams have their farm teams in that league, like the Fraport Skyliners from Frankfurt, or Ulm with Orange Academy, or what other teams are there? There are quite a lot of teams that have their farm teams there. It's a very good league because it has only really a couple Americans or a couple of foreigners. Has a lot of young Germans that maybe aren't experienced enough to get minutes BBL, but in the B. So it's a very interesting league. That is this season a very, very interesting league, a very competitive league. You have a couple teams at the top with Bremerhaven, Rostock, which is coached by the legendary Dirk Bauermann, who was many years the German national coach who coached Dirk Nowitzki in Germany. And you've got teams like Heidelberg and Bremerhaven, Rostock. Yeah, that's a really competitive league. You can find many strong teams, or a lot of very high-level players in that league. And then, of course, the first league is the Easy Credit. There's help through the TV deal 2014 with Telecom. And they got is actually a Pro A team that I believe is getting a new arena and very high level players. But behind that, you have many teams like Ulm, Oldenburg down last season. The BBL is a very, very competitive. For me, a top 5 league in Europe at the moment. That's my recap of the leagues in Germany.
Okay, so what is the general pay from Regionalliga and budget? I mean, you've described this a little bit at GermanHoops.com, and what it varies from going from Regionalliga as you move up to Pro B and Pro A.
I can't hear you now.
What is the salary, the wages? If you can give us a
you, Tom.
If you can give us a range on salary, if you can give us a, can you hear me?
Tom, no? I can't hear you.
Okay, you're coming through.
I can't hear you though.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not. You're coming through, but can you hear me now?
Tom, I can't hear you.
Okay, you're coming through. We can hear you. Okay, we're having some bandwidth problem here, talking with Miles Schmidt-Scheuber, and just trying to hope to establish a good connection. Miles, can you hear me well? Okay, so Miles, while we try to get established, Miles, can you hear me, Miles? Miles, if you can hear me, maybe you can re-log in. Miles, can you hear me? Okay, we're having some internet problems, so we hope that this can get sorted out. We take it one by one. Hello? Okay, Miles, can you hear me now?
Can't hear you.
Okay,
go ahead.
You can hear me? Good. So we're talking about the wages in the league.
Unfortunately, I can't hear you. I don't know what's wrong. You can hear me, I guess?
Yes. Yeah. All right, so it seems like we're having an internet connection problem here. Miles cannot hear me, but we can hear Miles. Miles, I'm asking about the salary wages in Germany, starting with Regionalliga. Okay, so we'll just leave it at that. Like, are we having difficulty getting Miles here? Miles, can you hear me again? Can you hear me? Already. We'll just end the broadcast and come back to Miles. Miles, can you hear me now?